I, 27-year-old female, gave birth to myself and my husband's 31-year-old male first child almost 2 months ago. She's a perfect little girl and I was so excited to have my family meet her. I have 3 older sisters who all have children as well. A fun tradition that my family does is to have a small get-together once the baby is about 3 months old. We don't announce the baby's name until after the birth to make it a surprise. At the little party, we give the parents a bunch of small gifts that have the new baby's name on them. My grandmother always quilts a beautiful baby blanket and embroiders the baby's name. She's done this for all of my sisters and cousins. The issue is the name my husband and I chose for our daughter. For context, my grandma has a unique history with her own name. She was born as Lucille, but from the time she was 8 years old, she told every single person she met that her name was Barbara. She did this for years until even her family called her Barbara. She even got her name legally changed. When I was a child, I always asked her why she changed it. She simply said she liked Barbara better. It became a family joke, but she never seemed upset about it and always laughed with us. My husband's grandmother raised him from when he was a baby to when she passed away when he was 19. Her favourite celebrity was Lucille Ball. She and my husband used to watch I Love Lucy all the time together. He misses her very much and said that he would love to honour her in some way. Her name was Mary, but we chose to have that as our daughter's middle name. We decided that Lucy is a name we both loved and would honour his grandmother and maybe make mine chuckle a bit. After I gave birth, my husband and I were FaceTiming my entire family when we announced the name. A few of my relatives laughed and said it was cute, but my grandma was dead silent. When I asked her what was wrong, she demanded to know why I chose Lucy. I was shocked and confused. I began to try and explain, but she suddenly hung up. This greatly dampened the mood. My grandma wouldn't answer any calls from me afterwards. I asked my oldest sister and she said that my grandma was apparently offended and thought we were mocking her. She said she's not coming to the party in a few weeks to meet my daughter in person and that she's not giving the baby quilt to us unless we apologise and change our daughter's name. I don't know why it's escalated so much. My grandma has always been kind. I have no idea what to do. Births in my family are always celebrated and happy events, but this has ruined it. I almost feel like some of my relatives are ignoring me because they don't want to pick sides, but I don't even understand why there's a fight. Dealing with this, along with my newborn, has been incredibly stressful. My family is puzzled as well, but most of them are saying I shouldn't have chosen a name I knew my grandmother disliked, or at least asked her about it first. Am I the idiot? Edit. Thank you all so much for your comments and advice. It's given me a lot to think about. I didn't expect my post to get this much attention, so I'm still working my way through reading them. I've seen a lot of comments asking why I didn't even think to ask my grandmother about the name, or why I would pick the name she obviously disliked. Like I said earlier, when I was a kid, she just said she liked Barbara better. That's what I've known my whole life, so I didn't really dig into it too much. Now I feel like an idiot. I honestly never intended to hurt her feelings. I never even considered that she changed it for any deeper reason than just an aesthetic preference. I don't know too much specifically about any childhood trauma with her, but I do know her dad passed away when she was about 6 years old, so maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not planning to ask her for specifics because I don't want to open any more old wounds than I already have. For right now, I'm taking a few comments suggesting, and I'm planning to write her a handwritten note apologising, explaining everything, and asking to talk. She has a bit of a hard time with technology, so I think this will be a good way to show I genuinely want to discuss this and never meant to hurt her. I'm still not entirely sure about what to do with the name, but for now my #1 priority is getting in contact with her and fixing our relationship. Another question that I've seen a lot is why my husband and I didn't just name our daughter Mary, or why I didn't use my grandmother's preferred name somewhere with my daughter. I have a good number of nieces and nephews, and 2 of my nieces already have Barbara as a middle name, so I thought I'd do something a bit different. I like it, but I don't prefer it as my daughter's first name. As for my husband, he only has 1 niece, and she is already named Mary. I didn't want my daughter to have to share a name with her cousin, so that's why we tried to come up with a different way to honour his grandmother. Another group of comments I've seen have been asking why I ever thought that this would make her chuckle. My family doesn't joke around about it too much, but every now and then someone will say something along the lines of, "What do you think you're going to change your name to next?" And she would let out a couple laughs. This led me to believe that she was light-hearted about the whole thing. Looking back, I'm just now realising that that was only polite laughter and I don't think she enjoyed it. I never thought about it as a little girl, so I went my entire life thinking she was fine with everything. I feel awfully guilty now, and I'll be sure to apologise to her for that as well once I see her again. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So I have a similar story, but it's about my name. My grandpa had a sister who had been abused by their parents and suffered terrible mental health, and my grandpa cared for her until he had to go to Wutu. She suicided while he was on duty. He never said her name again. My grandma never knew she ever existed. It was simply too painful for him. Well, I'm born many decades later, and my parents tell my grandparents my name, which, by chance, is his sister's name, and my grandpa had what looked like a stroke and went catatonic and was in hospital. The story comes out, but by this time my name is announced, everyone knows it, etc. Grandpa was in his 80s. He was not capable of processing his trauma, really. The works around in my family was my grandpa chose a name for me. It was added as a middle name, and everyone on my mum's side of the family called me by that name in Grandpa's presence. When I was little, I was told my mum's family used my Norwegian name, while Dad's family used my Irish name. When I was a bit older, I was told the full story. Grandpa and I were very close, and although he never called me by my name, when he was dying and mentally not all there, he called me Little Bird and Darling Sister. So while he couldn't bring himself to say her name, the fact that I had it made him identify with me in a special way. Honestly, no idiots here, because it's clear your grandma has some kind of deep trauma, but you did nothing wrong. Comment 2. Not the idiot. This name holds a lot of meaning for you and your husband. I also think your daughter will be happy to learn about the origin of her name. Your grandma's strong reaction indicates that she probably strongly disliked her old name Lucille. But how could you have known? She needs to communicate her feelings, but since she's ignoring you, well, she's kind of the AH a little bit. Her feelings may be justified, but she needs to realize that this is hurting you and your relationship to her. I don't understand why your family is on her side here. Just because your grandma hated having that name doesn't mean she has to hate for someone else to have that name. Stay strong. When she's ready, I'm sure she'll contact you so you can talk it out. Comment 3. Not the idiot. But there's a lot more to the story about why your grandma changed her name, otherwise there wouldn't have been such a dramatic reaction. You can name your child whatever you want, and TBH for your grandma to make such a big deal over something that has zero significance to anyone but her, to the point of punishing you and her grandchild, is malevolent, childish, and downright mean. You have two choices. Change your child's name to appease a woman who won't explain and won't be around long, or name your child what you want, and not have a quilt or goodwill from your grandma. It could be that in time your grandma will settle down, but perhaps she won't ever. It's your choice, but whatever you choose, you're not the a-holes. Now for the update. Since I sent that heartfelt letter to my grandmother, things have only spiraled further. She sent back my letter, shredded into pieces, in a box without any explanation. My mother then visited her to try and mediate, resulting in a heated argument that ended with Mum being called an ungrateful child. This, of course, caused further distress within the family, leading to further division and my aunt deciding to side with Grandma, as she put it. In the midst of all this, my husband and I have been trying our best to enjoy the early days with Lucy, but it's hard not to feel the shadow of this family drama hanging over us. We've even been approached by a local news station that somehow caught wind of the story and wanted to run a human interest piece on it. We declined, not wanting to fan the flames any further. To make matters worse, my grandmother has been spreading her own version of events around town, painting us as disrespectful, ungrateful children who deliberately chose a name to spite her. We've been getting a lot of unwanted attention and judgment from the local community, which has been quite upsetting. The most disturbing development, though, happened just last week. We woke up one morning to find a baby quilt on our doorstep. But this wasn't the traditional love-filled quilt my grandmother usually makes. Instead, the name Lucy was crossed out aggressively with red thread and replaced with Barbara. It was a chilling sight and further evidence of how twisted the situation has become. In the meantime, we are trying to stay strong for Lucy and make her early life as positive as possible. Hopefully this situation will somehow resolve itself soon. Any advice on how to handle this would be appreciated. Now for the comments. 1. Not the idiot. You wrote a letter to your grandmother, which is an act of love and respect. It's her choice to react negatively, and it's not your fault. The fact she's spreading a false narrative about you and your family is manipulative and harmful, not to mention crossing out Lucy's name on the quilt, which is just cruel. Stay strong, keep your distance, and focus on your immediate family. 2. Not the idiot. This is a form of emotional abuse, and it's unacceptable. You tried to bridge the gap by involving your mother, but it only escalated the situation. However, the constant drama is affecting your mental peace and your family's happiness. Cut off contact with your grandmother and aunt until they can behave in a more mature and respectful manner. They are the ones causing this rift, not you. 3. Not the idiot. Your grandmother is clearly trying to control the narrative, which is not fair to you or your family. Rejecting your heartfelt letter and then proceeding to tarnish your image in the community is far from respectful, and the quilt with Lucy's name crossed out is a low blow. You may want to consider legal action if her actions are causing significant distress or damage to your reputation. Your primary responsibility is to protect your immediate family. Now for the next story. I, female 31, am 32 weeks pregnant with my husband's and my first child. I have been co-workers, friends with Claire, female 36, since I joined the company 5 years ago. We have always been quite close, but I have been getting increasingly annoyed with her while I have been pregnant, and it all came to blows at my baby shower last week. For some backstory, Claire has struggled with fertility for years. She suffered from a pregnancy loss a few years ago and tried IVF, but that failed, which led to the end of her marriage. I was supportive throughout and tried to be there for her as much as I could. Everything was okay between us until Claire found out I was pregnant. From the moment she found out, she has become slightly obsessed. She touches my belly constantly, begging to feel the baby kick, and always asks how our baby is. I hate this and have made a point to say I don't like people touching my stomach apart from my husband. Claire, in turn, always tells people I don't like anyone touching my stomach apart from family, which she claims includes her. Edit. I told Claire that I didn't like anyone but my husband touching my stomach. She chose to ignore it. There have been other issues, but the main issue arose when I had my baby shower last week. My mom and mother-in-law organised the whole thing, but apparently both were bombarded with messages from Claire because she knew exactly what I wanted. She kind of took over the shower and made sure she was sitting next to me for the entire thing. While I was opening gifts, Claire burst into tears, saying how many of the gifts were items she would have been given at her own showers if she hadn't had her miscarriages. In the end, she had to be comforted by several guests. After the shower, I called her up and said that I think she needs to take a step back and I'm worried this is too much for her. Claire quickly fired back, saying that she was fine and that the baby needed Auntie Claire. Finally, I'd had enough and said that I really needed her to back off as she wasn't part of the family, and I felt like I was being suffocated. Ever since then, numerous co-workers have said that I need to apologise to Claire and that I was a jerk for being so harsh with her, so am I the idiot? Edit. For those saying I should find a new job, I can't do that because of my maternity pay. I was promoted last year, so I'm quite high in our firm, and it would take a long time to start again from scratch at a new firm. I will talk to HR, though, if I continue to be hounded by co-workers. Further edit, if people could please stop saying she's going to steal my baby or cut it out of me, that would be great. It doesn't help during what is already a stressful time. In my country, we have really high security and maternity wards regarding visitors, so no, Claire will not be able to steal my baby from the hospital. Yes, I have a Ring doorbell on my home. We've had it for years. No, Claire does not have a key to my house. No one apart from our parents does, and she has never been asked to babysit. The only people we'd ever asked to babysit are our parents or my husband's sister. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If I read this correctly, you had a private conversation with Claire, asking her to back off, and now other co-workers are weighing in. Clearly, Claire has been trolling for votes in the workplace. IMO, I think it's time to take this to HR. 1. She's been putting her hands on you despite being asked to stop. 2. You've spoke to her privately, trying to set boundaries, and her response was to whip up support with co-workers, resulting in a hostile work environment for you that is in danger of affecting the productivity of the team as relationships are becoming frayed. Don't mention her attention-getting behaviour at the shower. That's not HR's concern. They do need to know about the physical issues and the subsequent trolling for votes to get co-workers to turn on you. A divided team is not a well-functioning team, not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Get her photo to your birth centre and start the restraining order now. I'd also tell HR she's going over the top and it's feeling stalkerish to you. And tell her she won't be seeing the baby until the rest of the public does. Say 3 months old. Better to have her lose her shti now before you're healing postpartum and have a newborn. Comment 3. Not the idiot. Claire needs therapy and support, but she doesn't get to ignore your boundaries or requests. It's terrible that she's struggling, but you can't be responsible for her mental stability, and she's way too involved in your pregnancy. Painful though it will be for her, she needs firm and clear direction to back off and let you have space. Now for the update. Well, it's been a wild 2 weeks. First off, the talk with HR was a disaster. They treated the situation as a joke, asking me if I wanted a no-touching bubble and how they could enforce that. Left their office in tears. So much for company support, huh? But wait, it gets worse. Claire, emboldened by what I can only imagine was the smug satisfaction of my failed HR endeavour, amped up her obsession. She started following me to prenatal appointments. I only noticed when I saw her car in the parking lot, 3 times in a row. Overwhelmed, I finally sought legal advice. A lawyer friend recommended a restraining order and I filed for it. Claire was served at work. It was the most nerve-wracking day of my life, but also a relief. She was furious, screaming and crying. She even threw a stapler at our boss when he tried to calm her down. Needless to say, Claire was promptly fired. Thought that'd be the end of it, right? Oh, how I wished. A week after the restraining order was in place, I woke up to find my front yard vandalised. Obscenities, a crude drawing of a pregnant woman with a target over her belly, and the chilling words, "baby snatcher" spray painted all over my property. The police were called, and I mentioned Claire. They went to talk to her, but apparently she was on a spiritual healing retreat in a location her family did not know. That same day I had an ultrasound scheduled. I was on edge, terrified Claire would somehow be there. But this time, it was a friend waiting on me, my former co-worker Jen. She confessed that she felt guilty for not supporting me initially and offered to drive me to my appointments from now on. Grateful, I agreed. 3 days ago I got a call from the police department. They'd traced the vandalism back to Claire, who'd stupidly bought the spray paint using her credit card. The officers also found disturbing posts on her social media, hinting at her intentions to take what's rightfully hers. She's been arrested and is currently in custody awaiting her hearing. It's been a whirlwind, but it seems the worst is behind me. Jen's been my rock through all this, and the whole ordeal has brought us closer. Most of my other co-workers, now aware of how deranged Claire was, have reached out and apologised. I'm just trying to focus on my baby now, only a few more weeks to go. Wish me luck, Reddit. Now for the comments. 1. Not the idiot. It's clear that you were put in a very uncomfortable situation that escalated quickly. It was entirely within your rights to seek a restraining order against Claire, especially when she started following you to prenatal appointments. That's not normal co-worker behaviour, and it's alarming that your company didn't take immediate action. 2. Not the idiot. The fact that Claire vandalised your property and made disturbing posts shows that this was more than just a workplace disagreement. It's a serious violation of your personal space and safety. Your other co-workers apologising for not understanding the situation earlier shows that they too believe you are not in the wrong here. 3. Not the idiot. Your main focus should be your health and the health of your unborn child. It's unfortunate that you had to go through such a traumatic experience, especially during a time that should be happy and exciting. It's good to hear that you have the support of Jen and other co-workers now. Just remember, you did what you had to do to ensure your safety and peace of mind. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.